All right, everyone. We are on to the second part of lesson 4. So far what we've accomplished was solving one-step equations and also solving two-step equations. Well, there's also the possibility of getting even more than two-step equations, okay? So 3 or more, and we call that solving multi-step equations. And that's the lesson we're on here. It's the second part of our lesson 4. We're going to look at how to solve something a little bit more complicated like this. In the previous lesson, the most complicated something got was like this, let's say. Okay, where you had to bring the -5 over to the other side. That's one step. And then the second step was divide out the 2 from both sides. Okay, so that was two-step. Well, look at this equation. There's a little bit more, right? There's a term with x plus or minus a number, and then there's another term with x plus or minus a number. So there's a little bit more involved there, okay? And we're going to see that it's not much harder than what we've done. I'd say the hardest part to understand is already done with. Now, again, it just takes practice over and over again, looking how to do these new questions and just keep trying them over and over again until you get the hang of it. Okay, so let's take a look at this first example. And I'm reminding you to remember that the goal is to add, subtract, multiply, divide until we have only x's on one side of the equal sign. Okay, so x terms on one side and the numbers on the other side of the equal sign, or the constants on the other side. So if we have the question that I wrote above, 3x plus 2 equals 2x plus 6, and I asked you to solve for x, that means find the x value that makes left side be balanced or equal to the right side. Okay, think of the balance picture above. You're finding the x value, the single x value that allows this equation to be true, that allows it to be balanced or equal to each other. Okay, so let's look at what it says here. It says, take away 2 blocks or 2 x's, because the blocks represent the x's. See here, 3 blocks, well, that's the 3x. And then the 2 circles is the 2. The 2 blocks is the 2x. And then the 6 circles is the 6. Okay. So let's look at what we should do first. And I think that's where we're probably going to struggle a little bit with, and that's where people typically do struggle, is, what should you do first? Well, remember, you need to get all the x's on one side, the numbers on the other. So let's start by moving this 2x over to this side so that it is on the same side as the 3x. Well, how do you do that? It says right here, take away 2 blocks from both sides. The balance will stay balanced. Okay, so if I want to move these 2 blocks over, I have to subtract 2 blocks from here, so minus those 2. But then I also have to subtract 2 blocks from here on the other side to keep it balanced. So I'm just going to cross off 2 of the blocks, right? What are you left with? 1 block or 1x, right? Or just x. So these are gone. But now look, we still have, so far this is what we have. We had 3x minus 2x, because I subtracted 2x on the left side. But then I still have this plus 2 here, right? I still have that plus 2. I have not moved that over. And the 6 is still there. This 2x is gone, right? That's gone. It's been moved over. So it's been moved over. And this is what we have. And then I collected like terms. I can do 3x minus 2x, which is 1x. Okay. But I still have this plus 2 here. Well, how do I get rid of the plus 2? Here's the instruction. Take away 2 circles, right? We have 2 circles here. We want to take these away. But then we also have to take away 2 on the other side to keep it balanced. What are we left with? X equals 4. Okay, there's our final answer. So what did we learn from this? We looked at it as a picture, but think about it as getting the x's to one side and getting the numbers to the other side. Okay, and some of you may look at this and say, okay, but sir, how come we didn't do any dividing like in the last step? Well, here's why we never did any dividing. Was because we ended up getting 1x here, right? Like let's say we got 2x there. So I ended up getting 2x equals 4. Well, in this last step, you would have to divide out the 2 on both sides, and you would get x equals 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. These would cancel each other out. But we ended up getting 1x because 3x minus 2x is 1x. So we're happy. We want that. We wanted 1x or just x. If it was any other number in front of the x, our last step would have been to divide it out on both sides. But we didn't come across that situation. Okay, so this was kind of an easier example. Let's get to some real examples here. Okay, and again, this is just going to take you practicing over and over again until you get the hang of it. So, step 1, move all terms with x to one side. Okay, that's step 1. So let's do that first. I see a plus x here and I see a 2x here. I'm going to take this plus x and move it here. What's the opposite of adding x? Subtract x. Okay, so you would subtract x from both sides. It would cancel out on this side. And you would get 2x minus 1x, I'll call it 1x, plus 3, so I still have the plus 3 there, equals 6. Well, collect like terms. 2x minus 1x, or 2 apples minus 1 apple, is 1 apple, or 1x. But now bring over this plus 3. I want to move this to the other side. So move all terms with x to one side. Step 2 is move all constants to other side. So you end up getting, you would have to subtract 3 to move this over the equal sign. So you'd get 6 minus 3. Okay, you would subtract 3 on both sides, but I don't have to show that here because they would just cancel each other out, right? But you would subtract 3 on both sides, and your final answer then would be x equals 3. If you don't believe me, I will prove to you that the answer here is in fact x equals 3. We're going to do a quick check. So remember, to do a check, all you have to do is sub in x equals 3 into this x, and see if they end up equaling each other, if both sides equal each other. So let's go like this. Let's set up two sides. This side says 2x plus 3. So this is our check. I should write that. And this side says 6 plus x. Let's sub in 3 for x for both sides. So we get 2 times 3 plus 3. It equals 9. And lo and behold, 6 plus 3 here also equals 9. So x equals 3 is my solution. It is the value of x that makes the equation equal to each other. Okay, that's my solution. Let's try the next one. Bring the x's together. So I'm going to move this to this side. Now it's a plus 2x here. If you don't see a sign in front, assume that it's a positive or plus 2x. So it becomes a minus 2x here. Okay, on the other side. We still have the minus 7, and we still have the positive 4 or the plus 4 on the other side. I don't have to show the plus sign here, okay, everybody, because it's understood there. If it's on the other side of the equal sign and there's nothing else with it, that it's a positive 4. Okay, so I don't need to show that plus, right? This plus right here. Don't need to show that. It's just a 4. Let's move the minus 7 over by what? If it's minus 7 on this side, we're going to add it on the other side. And I can collect like terms here. So 3x minus 2x is x equals 4 and then add 7. There it is. Could I check my answer? See if I did it right? Of course, I think you can start to take my word for it that if I now sub in 11 for x on both sides, that they will equal each other on both sides. So that's my check. Okay, what I suggest you do now is you now pause the video and you try these 2 questions on your own, covering my answers, and see if you can do it on your own. The next 2 questions will get more challenging, so I just want you to make sure that you can do these 2 before you move on. So pause the video now. Okay, next question. The reason why this one's a little bit more challenging is because we are dealing with negatives. You could see negative 2x, negative 5x. It gets just a little bit trickier, so be careful. Okay, so we're still going to move all the x's to one side. So I'll move this minus 5x to this side here. And it doesn't matter which side I choose. Like I can move minus 2x to this side. Doesn't matter. Okay, that makes no difference. You'll get the same answer in the end. So let's go. If it's minus 5x on the right side, it would be plus 5x on the left. We still have the plus 6. And we still have the negative 6 on the right side. Okay, so I'm left with negative 2x plus 5x plus 6 equals negative 6. Well, let's collect like terms. Negative 2x plus 5x, just on your calculator, do negative 2 plus 5, you would get 3x. Rewrite the rest. Second last step, move the plus 6 over. If it's plus 6 on the left, what does it become on the right? Minus 6. So you get negative 6 minus 6. In your calculator or in your head, you would get that that is minus 12. But we're not done now. This is where this is a little bit harder than the previous question. In the previous question, at this step, I was always left with 1x, right? So I didn't have to divide out 1 because, I mean, 11 divided by 1 is still just 11. It doesn't change anything. But here it's a 3, so I do have to divide out the 3 on both sides. Your last step is always dividing that out. Cancels out on this side. 3 divided by 3 is 1, or 1x, equals negative 12 divided by 3 in your calculator, negative 4. Okay, and again, you can check your answer by subbing in x on both the left and right side and seeing if you get a balanced equation. Last question. Throw in another bit of a wrench here, something we haven't seen, but we did cover back in lesson 3. This here, we have to do something with that. Before we can solve this, we have to use the distributive property. And the distributive property says that we have to multiply out that 2 into everything in that bracket. So you end up getting, let's just erase this circle. You would multiply 2 times x and then 2 times negative 5. Not just 5, 2 times negative 5. So you get 2x. What's 2 times negative 5? Negative or minus 10. And then rewrite the rest. And now it looks exactly like the questions we have done. Okay, so this just required an extra step at the beginning of using the distributive property. Okay, so I'm going to move the 3x over. Okay, it's plus 3x on this side, so it's going to be minus 3x on this side. Rewrite the minus 10. Put your equal sign and rewrite the positive 10 or just 10. Okay, it's understood that that's positive there. Collect like terms. 2x minus 3x. 2 minus 3 in your calculator is negative 1x. Okay? Bring the minus 10 over. Becomes plus 10. My question to you now, my final question for this lesson is, do we stop there? Well, do you see a 1x beside your x? Do you see a 1 beside your x, or do you see a negative 1? It's a negative 1. And anything other than a 1, you have to divide this out because it will change your answer. So divide out your negative 1 on both sides so that they cancel here. Negative 1 divided by 1 is just 1. Okay, and you're left with x equals, what's 20 divided by negative 1? There you have it. You see how it changed our answer? Our answer initially looked like, oh, it's just positive 20. But because we had negative 1x, we had to divide out the negative 1, and our actual answer is x equals negative 20. I strongly suggest before you start the homework again, try these 2 questions that we just did on your own over and over again until you get it without needing to look at my solution.